That's right. I built a destruction gadget, and I'm just going to have to live with the fact that I just lost all of those materials. All that precious, precious ore. But we need a space to build in, so needs must. Hello everybody, I'm Martin, and welcome to another episode of Glacial Awakening. And today, as you can see, I'm building out a new room for all of my immersive engineering stuff, and honestly, it's probably still too small, and I'm still working on the layout of the room. But so far, I think I've come up with something that I kinda like, although I don't know how I feel about the cherry wood logs under there. It kinda bleeds into the terracotta in the back, but so far I like what I'm doing here. Got a long ways to go yet, but we had to move on with the episode. I have to progress at some point, right? So last time we left off, we'd made the fermenter to make ethanol. And what can we do with the ethanol? We can do the very next step, which is pass it into the refinery along with plant oil from the squeezer to make biodiesel. And maybe in doing so, actually create a better source of power to use going forward instead of just the thermoelectric blah blah blahs. I honestly just can't remember the name, I never can. But that does bring us to the next step in the quest book to help get us close to finishing off this chapter. And looking at this, I have realized I have already dug myself a hole because this is a 5x3 instead of a 3x3, and I assumed it was going to be 3x3 platform, despite the fact that I've made one of these before, not that far back in Enigmatica. So maybe I'm going to have to move it over, I don't know, here maybe, or just extend that for now, and then I'll just be in the way of the door. I think I'm just going to put it in the way of the door for now. Okay, I compromised myself and just moved the squeezer over, and we'll just put it up against this back wall since I'm going to run the cabling behind it anyways through conduits. I suppose I should also mention that this means this room's now kind of cleaned up, and I fixed all the lighting in the room, so that's a lot better, although I need to still stud a bit more glowstone in the floor down there and in the rooms under it. But this is all looking a little bit better. Now I just need to add some railing and figure out what I actually want to do up here. But the main thing we need to make the refinery is a whole lot of steel, because we need it for scaffolding and we need it for the heavy engineering blocks. And I'm sure this is going to eat up a ton of iron too. But let me go get everything together and we'll take a look at this. Okay, that honestly wasn't too bad. It was mostly just having to make a ton of iron and steel plates, but we had all the materials already made. Well, we hope we've got everything lined up properly to hook this all up, because I've got a sneaking suspicion I'm going to have trouble running power here in a second. Okay, looks like this is probably going to be okay, because the power goes in right there, so I should just be able to put another connector and run it up to the ceiling up there. That said, I do need to run a conduit over to this side to pump fuel in. I'd forgotten about that. Nope, I'm wrong. I need to flip this around because I need to be able to extract from the side facing the wall there, even though I want to punch that wall out long term. Probably be easier if this is facing the other way, which means I will have trouble getting power in maybe. Alright, that works better. Now I can actually extract the fuel that comes out of it, and it lined up properly with the capacitor up there in the ceiling just fine, so that all actually happily worked out. I do need to straighten out the back of this room eventually just to make some room around it though. That's a problem for next week's art though, maybe, assuming he's not lazy. Future art is almost always lazy. Anyhow, now what I actually need to do is automate putting in some materials into both the squeezer and the fermenter to process them into the liquids that we need, and then hook those up into the refinery so we can get biodiesel out of it. I could run an AE2 connection in and grab stuff directly out of the inventory that way, but everything I need is in my drawer network, and it might be easier to run some trim down and run a conduit from that through the wall here somewhere. Let me go take a look at what my options are. Okay, so the good news is this punches through right at the very edge of my drawer network right here. I think I may can go one more over, maybe two. I'd have to recount this. I can just drop trim down straight from here, and that'll be directly behind this wall where I would want the conduit anyways. And thankfully I made a whole bunch more chorus fruit plants to get some more ender pearls, so you can see I have an okay number now. So making conduits is actually kind of viable. But hopefully I don't need to make too many. No, sir, I will not be giving ender pearls to you. This is not a takeout. Well, the good news is the machines are running. The bad news is it's completely draining the power out of this LV capacitor, so this might need to be upgraded to a higher tier. But these are also draining my capacitor bank at a fairly elevated rate as well. So I can only imagine kicking on the refinery is going to accelerate that, but we need to get some fuel somewhere, and hopefully that will allow us to get more power. And I can always turn these off, and or my lasers, but I really don't want to turn the laser off yet. But let me go get some fluid pipes, and let's go connect these up and see if we can get some fuel made. I suppose I should also note that I don't have the world's largest supply of seeds right now either. I might need to change up what my farm is creating because this isn't generating a whole lot, or else I'm going to have to go switch over to another crop that maybe works better, something like the melons that will generate a whole bunch of seeds even though the seeds generate less oil per seed. I don't know, I'll figure something out. Well, the good news is this is a humongous cabling nightmare and it cost me a really large chunk of my ender pearls, but at least the refinery doesn't seem to be just chewing through just massive amounts of power. This at least seems to be moving normally. I'm going to have to do something about these two. That's still just chewing through power. But now we have some biodiesel made and we'll have to see if we can keep up with this. But what we need to do is put this to work and try to get some power back into our system. To be clear, before we do that though, what they actually want us to make this for is to make these reinforced blast bricks though, because these actually require a bucket of biodiesel per to make a stack of 3. And I think we need 9 buckets of it to make the reinforced furnace. But the other thing we can potentially do with it is make the diesel generator, and we have to see if we can actually make this because I probably should have checked that first. Let's see, the one new piece here would be the generator block, and that's going to be an awful lot of steel for the heavy engineering blocks. But it looks like the generator blocks don't make anything we haven't already made before, so that's not too bad. And neither do the radiator blocks. So on the upside, we are actually good to make this. On the downside, I'm not sure where in this room I'm going to put it since it's another 5x3. I guess we can just put it right next to this and see how it goes until I figure out what I actually want to do and if I can even sustain power generation from this. I also still really need to upgrade the capacitor up there though, and the wires in this room. Yeah, it looks like the MV capacitor is doable, as are the MV wires. So yeah, I don't see any real surprises there. Maybe I should at least try that. That might help the power situation, but I really don't want it to draw faster anyways, because it's already taking more than I can afford out of the capacitor in my main bank. Well, let me go see how bad this is though. Alright, so I've got an actual problem. I severely underestimated how much steel we need for this to make the generator, as well as the arc furnace coming up directly after this. To the point where I may not even make the diesel generator just because of how expensive these are. Because the arc furnace straight up requires 6 steel blocks on top of everything else in this to make, including a whole bunch of sheet metal and a bunch of heavy engineering blocks. It's not great. On top of all the steel required for the blast bricks. And the generator, I've got everything made except for the heavy engineering blocks. Except as a reminder, these aren't the normal ones. These are made in the engineer's workshop and require, I think 12 pieces of steel per every 2. So that's a lot of steel, and steel does not get made fast. So I think instead of doing either of those things, we're going to wrap up with one last off-the-wall craft to help with the steel production. Because one of my biggest problems, aside from having to babysit this because you can't automate this blast furnace because we need the reinforced one to do that, is storing all of the creosote coming out of the coke oven, because that actually has been my biggest slowdown. Because those are actually my second set of tanks, because I don't have a better set of tanks, except there is one that I can do, especially now that I have ender pearls. Because what we can make is the black hole tank. Because this actually is within our means, because we make the simple machine chassis, we have the plastic, and we now have ender pearls. But of course this means I need more grains of infinity. And more star metal. Alright, and that got the black hole tank made. Although it took a couple more pieces of steel, but I think it's safe to say this solves our creosote oil storage problems for a while. Although I've still got to empty out all these tanks into it, but yeah, this won't be a problem for a while now. But I'm not gonna lie, it bums me out a bit that we didn't make it as far as I was hoping we would make. I should have realized that steel was gonna be a humongous problem. That's on me. But there's at least some things we can do. We can't progress the chapter for the probably next couple episodes while we wait for steel to cook, but we do have things we need to do, like, I don't know, go properly set up our ranching system and, go get some sheep so that we actually have wool. Or maybe, see if we can go progress in astral sorcery or something like that. Plenty of stuff to do, I'm sure. Anyhow, if you found this episode interesting or entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribing if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.